To carry on with my explanation of the differences between the Process 2012 and Adobe Standard as your camera profile and the other Process 2010 and possibly using your camera standard profile, I want you to take a look at the images that I have here. These images are from my PDF that accompanies the course. But let's take a look over here. I have Process 2012 and Adobe's Standard. Now over here is 2012 with the camera standard. There's a heck of a difference. And personally, I'm liking this a little bit more. I like the way the blues are being represented more so than the blues over here. Now this is Process 2010 Adobe Standard. Things are brighter. Remember I told you there'd be more contrast and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not really fond of the way the blues are going there. And now here's the 2010 camera standard, and this one is as acceptable to me as a starting point as this one is. Either one of them will do. But you can see that there is a definite difference between all of them. So that's just a comparison between the two things. All right, here's what Adobe wants you to be with, and I'd say at a minimum be here. An experiment to see what this one would give you. The next thing I want to do is I want to compare a drastically underexposed image and the different process versions that allow us to remove noise. So I'm just going to scoot up to here. This is my grandson, my oldest grandson, when he was 3 years old. So back in the day, I processed this with the 2003 Adobe Standard, and take a look at the noise, and not only the noise, but look at the color noise that we have going on in there with the Adobe Standard profile. Look at the color noise in here. Wow, just horrible. Then we had the next process come in, which was the 2010, and look at the noise difference. I mean, that's just awesome, and that's just using the Adobe Standard. Take a look at the color noise over here, and now we don't have all that color junk in there. We just have the regular luminance noise. Now if we come over here and take a look and bring it back into the color world, same color world, Process 2003, using the camera standard. And I firmly believe that this red here and the skin tone represents better than over here. And now what I've got going on is Process 2010 with camera standard. This is Process 2010 camera standard. This is Process 2010 Adobe Standard. This is a truer representation of the colors as well as the face, as opposed to Adobe Standard. Now, if I had gone through the process of, showing you the Process 2012 Adobe Standard, camera standard, you would probably see even better difference in noise reduction. But this was just to show you what we had when I originally shot the image versus what I was able to get just a few years later. In other words, we're able to get a cleaner, smoother image from our raw files. The more we wait, the better the interpreters are, and they pull up more and more information that we had before. So now what I want to do is I just want to scroll through here, and I want to show you full screen of what this image looked like in the 2003 process using Adobe Standard. Now I'm just going to scoot up here a little bit and show you that the 2010 Adobe Standard is much cleaner. I mean, take a look at the noise and junk there. Take a look at lack of noise and junk in this one. Now I'm going to come over here and change it over to camera standard and 2010. So this is 2003 camera standard. This is 2010 camera standard. I mean, you can see the difference in the noise. I mean, it's drastic. It is just freaking huge. So now I'm going to zoom in a lot on this, and I'm at 100% now, and we can actually see some of the differences there. This is with no noise reduction. All right, this is the 2003 process, 100% zoom, no noise reduction. Now I've turned up the noise reduction all the way, and you can see that we're kind of getting rid of some of the stuff, but it's looking kind of garbagey. Yeah, that's a word, garbage-y. Here's the Process 2010, and it's definitely an improvement. Even that noise that way, without any noise reduction going on, is more acceptable than what we had before. And now this is with the noise brought up 25%. And then the next one is brought up to 50%, brought up to 75%. Look how smooth that is getting. All right, we're really starting to eliminate that, but it might be going a little bit too far as smoothing out some of that noise. And then this is, had to go to the extreme. I had to show you how great it is that in the later versions of the processes, 2010, 2012, whatever, that we can actually go up to 100 here and get rid of all that noise. Now it's starting to look like plastic skin, starting to look like some of those models on the front pages of those magazines we see at the supermarket, but I just did that for an exaggeration. What I've done now is I've come back. Remember, at 50 was really nice. 75, I said it was starting to get a little bit too much. So I've brought it down halfway between 50 and 75 or thereabouts at 62. And I think that's coming close to being something very acceptable. So now, this is why I find it being so important that you choose the right process. 2010 or 2012, stick with 2012. It's a great process. But you gotta make sure you have the right camera profile. And this is why I firmly believe that it needs to be one of the first choices, not one of the 8th or 9th choices down the road. If we stay with the Adobe way of working through those individual tabs, by the time we get down to the calibration thing and change it to camera standard, our image is gonna look totally out to lunch. And then we're going to say, well, let's go back to the Adobe Standard. And oh, it looks so much nicer. And then we're always going to live in that standard, not knowing that we have, first of all, a choice. And second of all, that choice might even be better than what the Adobe thing has to offer. Enough said. I love Adobe. Just don't like some of the logic sometimes. Now let's move on to the Basics tab.